Hi, this is the round update at the end of round 4 when there's only the single round 5 left before the second season of the Dark Bowl Cup comes to a close. Going to have a look through each of the teams, their game point score, their dream team, their betting scores, where their squad is now, and what their final game of the league will be and what ramifications that might have for their place. Obviously, while a lot of the points are sorted, there are still a full fifth to get hold of in the final round. So a lot can change, and I know a lot did in the last season. So let's start having a look through the teams. Currently in last place in the league are the Misty Mountain Marauders, Ben's Goblin team. You can see, even at a glance, that there's a lot of players in that side. Ben currently at the moment in the league has 0 game points. His dream team has scored fairly well with 13, 12, 14, and in the fourth round, 30 points, giving him a total at the moment of 69 dream team points, which puts him in the top end. Ben's betting has gone fairly well as well. Ben's betting score currently at the end of round 4 are 10 points, which puts him on a par with the other 4 leaders who all have 10 points. So either people are equally wise or equally foolish in their bets. If we look at Ben's team, you can see he's been a bit thin on the ground when it comes to upgrades. He's got guard on one of these trolls. He's got block on his fanatic, which is pretty effective, and sidestep on one of these goblins. His squad is by far the biggest so far, and his last game in season 2 of the Dark Bowl Cup will be against the Scarlet Harlots, who we'll be looking at in a moment, who are just ahead of him on game points in the league with 1 win. So that will be a really interesting game because those are 2 teams that have both struggled a little bit in this league, and they're both very dodge heavy. So that should be a really good last match to both of them because they're both playing each other for ranking above each other. So so that's Ben's team at the moment. Dream team's doing well, betting very solid, but his game point score has been has really struggled with goblins. So next up, the aforementioned Scarlet Harlots, Shaun's Amazon team, who have who have 3 game points, which puts them in 5th place in the league. You win with Shaun's team. He has 3 game points. His dream team has scored 15 points, looking hopeful. Then 8, then 4, then 2. So it's gone downhill for Shaun as it's gone on. He only has 29 dream team points. It's not been a great dream team for Shaun. His betting has got 8 points, so he's 2 behind the leaders, but he's not in last place when it comes to betting. Shaun's squad, despite an early death of one of his blitzers, he's replaced that blitzer, so he's back up to the full 4, and he's actually managed to grab 4 upgrades over the course of the season. He's got accurate on both of his throwers. He's got sure hands on one of his blitzers and an extra armor value point on one of his lineswomen. So ultimately, considering he was Amazons in a league filled with dwarves and ogres, it's come out pretty well at the other end. As I said, last game's against Ben. It's going to be really interesting with his goblins. It's going to be dodge all over the place. The block that's on Shaun's blitzers will be decisive, but as will be the mighty blow on the trolls that Ben possesses and the chainsaw and his different means of injuring those fragile Amazons. If Ben manages to beat Shaun, there's every possibility he could steal away 5th on game points. And if Shaun beats Ben, there's every possibility that all sorts of things could happen because he's only 3 points behind 3rd and 4th. So it'd be a huge game for both players, which is exactly what we want in the final round. Now in 4th place on game points is Matt's Miss Ogre Beauty Pageant Ogre team, who have done very well for an Ogre team. Matt has 6 game points. He's managed to win half his games, which is very strong for a Tier 3 team. Matt's Dream Team has gone from 21 points in the first round, 9 points in the second, 22 in the third, and let me just check the fourth, 7, 9, 14, 16 in the fourth, which puts him on a total of 68 Dream Team points at the moment, which is very strong, just one behind Ben, who was on 69. So Matt's betting has been solid. It's been the same as the top four. He's got 10 points from his betting. And Matt's squad, shockingly, none of his snotlings have died or had serious injuries that have resulted in them being retired. His one death has been one of his ogres, Heather. Now that is somewhat balanced out by the fact that Jennifer, one of these other ogres, has proven to be a superstar. Unfortunately, she's not managed to get doubles on any of her skill rolls, which has denied her the all-important block. But she has got guard, which is fairly standard. But then break tackle has been a revelation. It's really allowed that ogre to defy the normal rule of, once you tie down an ogre, it's stuck there. And he's also managed to get diving tackle on 2 of his snotlings. And he's only picked up 1 additional snotling since the league started. And an apothecary. So I imagine now he's saving up for an extra ogre. But Matt's last game is again... Oh, I apologise. Actually, I was mistaken in my earlier assessment that that Ben and Shaun will be playing each other. Actually, Ben will be playing Alec's dwarf team, which is a far harder matchup. It's still, if he beats it, he can still go ahead of Shaun in the league, but it's changes the face of it completely, whereas Shaun's team is actually playing Matt's. That's a terrible mistake on my part. How worrying. It makes me think of all the other scores I might have added up wrong. Matt and Shaun will actually be playing, which is actually very similar to the matchup that would have happened from Shaun's perspective, because he's playing somebody that's covered in dodge. The only difference is the little things covered in dodge are even weaker, but rather than 2 trolls, he's got to face 3 ogres. But no chainsaws, so it'd still be a very interesting match. I mean, Matt's on 6. If Matt manages to get a win against Shaun, he could go up to 9, which takes him all the way up to 2nd on game points. Whereas the same is true for Shaun. If Shaun manages to beat Matt, then he'll jump up equal with him, perhaps even past him. So that will be a really interesting game. As I said before, Shaun's block will count for a lot when Matt has no block at all on his team. So there's Matt's squad. Apologies for that slight mistake. Now we're up in the top half of the game point table. Alec's on Castables, the dwarf team, who have had, despite a lot of contentions that I think a lot of people had these guys out to win the league, they've struggled at times. Alec's most favourable matchup against Shaun's Amazons, where his tackle and block and everything comes into such mighty effect, was only this 4th round, so it might have slowed down Alec's development somewhat. Still, he's managed to get 6 game points, which has currently got him ranked 3rd, equal with Matt, but ahead on touchdown difference and casualty difference. Yep. Alec's Dream Team has managed to score 23, 17, 25 and 18, which puts him on 83 points. A highly impressive Dream Team score, and puts him far in the lead for the Dream Team. Betting, he's up with the same top 4 with 10 points. He's had solid bets. And team development-wise, he lost one of his runners in the opening round. And one of these blockers has lost some armour. But other than that, it's been going pretty well. He's picked up himself an apothecary, 2 new blockers, and he's got Mighty Blow on one blitzer, Mighty Blow on another blocker, and Kickoff Return on his runner, which is interesting, but it compensates for the dwarves' lack of speed and the fact that the runner has to do all the kickoff returning, has to do all the receiving of kickoffs, and will hopefully allow him to get into that cage a little sooner, I imagine. So Alec's final game will be against, I'm going to get this right this time, against Ben with his Goblin side. Now this is a tough ask for a Goblin side. The dwarves have got tackle everywhere, which can compensate for the Goblins' dodge. They've got Troll Slayers with Dauntless to fight the trolls, how appropriate. So it's going to be really tough for Ben to scrape a win or even a draw there. But if he does, it's going to be a real upset in the league, and I don't think anyone would begrudge Ben a victory with his Goblins, because they've had a fairly tough time. But it's hard to look past Alec and his dwarves, which could then put Alec up into 2nd place on game points, and given his good scores in his other areas, that could be a real boost for him overall. And now we're up to the rarefied silver medal levels. Second in the league table on his game points of 9 are Dan's Orphaned Orcs. An Orc team, how appropriate. You can see one of the glaring things on Dan's team is a complete lack of any death at all, or any serious injuries at all. The infamous Dwarven... The dwarves should be durable, but they've not proven quite so much. The infamous Orc durability has meant that Dan has not had a single serious injury of any note, and has in fact been able to save up enough money to buy an additional linesman, taking him in with his 1 reserve, but then actually has been able to afford an additional team reroll, taking himself up to 4. I'm going to jump straight to looking at his squad because I've started now. He's managed to get tackle on 2 of his blitzers, which has been a very wise investment in a league filled with snotlings, goblins, and amazons. That is a skill that has had its return many times over. He's also managed to get block on one of his Black Orc blockers, which changes them from a strong but unreliable force into a deadly force on the table. And he's actually got +1 strength on his thrower, which is interesting. But I think it's very positive because the thrower is often the carrier for an Orc team, and this just makes him that bit more effective a carrier. If we look at Dan's dream team, he scored 19, 18, 21 and 14, giving him a total of 62, which puts him pretty near the top end with the 68 and 69 ahead of him, as well as obviously Alec's mighty 83. But a good score there. Dan's betting, however, because of a slight mix-up on his part where he didn't actually bet the 1 round correctly, has put him on 6 betting points, which does put him last there, but perhaps if those 2 bets had been in, it's hard to say. Hopefully it won't come down to those couple of points because that would be a little bit unfortunate. But Dan's last game is against the team we haven't seen yet, Jack's Necromantic. This is a huge game. While it's very difficult for Dan to actually come out on top of the league table because he's on 9 and Jack's on 12, but the touchdown difference and the casualty difference is huge. The 12 points equal there would mean that dream teams and betting and fluff and sportsmanship would count hugely. Well, they would count for who would win. Whereas if Jack manages to get the win and pushes himself up to 15, even if Dan scores far outstrips Jack's in all the other areas, it'd be very difficult for him to catch him up. And then you've got a greater chance that the people just behind him, Alec's Dwarves or Matt's Ogres, who are on 6 respectively, if they manage to get some game points in the last round, they could really threaten him. So Dan is in with a shout if he can pull off a big win against the Necromatics. It's hard to say, so I'm really interested. I can't wait. And that brings us to the top of the table, Jack's Shallow Grave Dwellers, his Necromantic team. Now, one of the things that should stand out to you, which is an unusual thing to say on a Necromantic team, is just how many players are dead on this team. Although there is a retirement there, Jack has managed to lose a werewolf, a wight, a ghoul, and he's had to retire a flesh golem in order to be up at full strength. That is a shocking amount of loss for the team that's at the top of the table, and it really speaks to the fact to how Jack's played his games. He's managed to win every matchup he's had, despite these deaths. Saying that, he has managed to create a couple of superstars there. So he's got 12 points in his team through his game points. His dream team has shuddered for most of it so far. He's managed to have 8, 8, 1, which only took him up to 17 before round 4, but he had a decent round 4 with his dream team, scoring 18 points, more than his entire dream team score so far, putting him on 35, which isn't really going to threaten anyone, but it's a lot more respectable. Jack's betting points are on 10, same as 3 other players, and his squad has had some really interesting advancements. He's lost a couple of players who had been upgraded, but if we look at what he's got now, he's got Peg-legged Jim, who is a real superstar of the white with Mighty Blow and Tackle. This could, even though Dan lacks any dodge, the Tackle to take advantage of, Mighty Blow is extremely helpful against that Armour 9. Derek Daffodil, I always love it when a linesman, particularly a terrible linesman like a zombie, manages to do well. He's managed to pick up Block and Dauntless, which Dauntless should hopefully pay its own way against those Strength 4 and now Strength 4 thrower. Strength 4 blockers and Strength 4 thrower in Dan's team. Dauntless should hopefully help there, especially combined with block. And Jack has picked up quite a few new players. He's picked up a new werewolf to replace his one that he lost in the opening game. He's managed to convert a player by turning Hansi, a former dwarf thrower, into a zombie. And Gormangast, he purchased a new flesh golem, which was a really tough tactical decision for Jack at the end, because it was whether or not to replace his white who had died, so he could get block, or to replace his flesh golem to the strength 4. He's gone down the strength 4 route because of the superior strength in Dan's team. It should be very interesting, that final game. It's definitely going to be my favourite. So there are the teams we had, it with only one slight, huge mess up with who's playing who at the start. This league has made me think about the possibility that we should introduce a rule about when people actually have to play, because let's say Dan's opponent wasn't Jack. If Dan was to lose to his opponent, then Jack could play his game slightly differently, knowing a draw would, either a loss or a draw would win in the league. But at the same time, while that's a problem, at the same time it's frustrating that if Jack played first, and let's say Jack won and put the league out of somebody's reach, then perhaps they wouldn't play quite as passionately. But I think the most important thing is here that the game points, while they make up 50% of your overall score, it's just 50%. Everything else matters so much that even if you're clear on points and your position in the league, it's still very important to grab that extra 3 that will be multiplied and make up a large part of your score. So we will see. I'm really interested by the final round. I'm really pleased with how the players have been. Round 3 was right down to the wire in terms of managing to play all our games within 2 weeks, but round 4 I blinked and they all happened, which I love it when I've got a lot of work to do with this league. Because it means presumably players are enjoying it and looking forward to playing more games. I'm really hopeful that we can play a 3rd season, because I really think it would be nice for the people who have struggled along with Tier 3, like Matt and Ben, with their ogres and their goblins, to taste the upper tiers. And while those players who perhaps have had an easier job with their higher tier teams, maybe taste some of the lower tiers. Halflings and vampires are still in there. So here's hoping that we can have the season 3, but that'll be down to the players. I've really enjoyed running it this season, and we'll do one more video when we finish, just to let everyone know and keep it on record how it ended. Okay, thanks a lot. Bring on round 5.